Welcome back, beautiful people, as always. This is an end of the semester episode, I guess you can say, which is great because this is my very first time, whether it's a big deal to some people or not. It's a big deal because this is my very first time having a lengthy conversation and or talk with someone, I guess you could say, from across the pond?
From across the pond. Yeah, I'll take that. That's better. Yeah. All the way from England, man.
Yeah.
Sunny, rainy, miserable.
The one and only Theo.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
I'm not doing too bad, man. It's been a long semester.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's done, man. Finals out the way. Just ready to take it easy.
This is a clash of worlds aside from an American and a Brit because obviously you're one of the journalists, I guess you could say, people on campus, and I'm friends with practically all of the shout out to all of you. You know who you are.
I'm sorry.
And you're like the one I haven't talked to, but I hear the most about because everyone is always saying, I love Theo.
Yeah, because of the accent. Purely because of the accent. And I know that. And they know that, I think, deep down.
Points to them. They're watching.
You know it. Deep down, you know why. And I'll take it. I'm not going to turn it away, but we all know the reason.
Right.
And it ain't looks. So.
Well, today this isn't about you. This is about him.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk with you, and let's start from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Before you even got to this point, I'd like to rewind with everybody and recap everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was life like growing up for you in England? And if you care to share, where from England are you from?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from I was born in London, but I do not identify as a southerner. They're all I'm very much northern by heart. Which is sort of the difference between like everyone else and New Yorkers here. Like New Yorkers, they get all the money. They're all.
So is it kind of like the whole East Coast versus West Coast thing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, New York's like London. They get all the money, they get all the attention, but it's just full of tourists and it's all expensive. So
right.
I'm from the north by heart. A small town called Tommerden. Lived there since I was 4. And it was nice, man. It's a village, really, more than a town. It's sort of surrounded by hills. We're at the bottom of like a basin, so there's hills that surround us all the way around.
Wow.
So there's a lot of rain. There's a lot of sort of pretty grim weather, winds, flooding. But it was perfect, man. As a young kid, there was not tons to do, but enough to keep you busy. There was no danger. There was no walking down the streets worried about, anything scary because everyone just knows each other. So there's almost a community sort of looking after each other.
So, growing up, obviously there's a very big, I don't want to say divide, but there's many different things. So, if you don't mind me asking, what year were you born?
I was born 2002.
Okay, so we're practically the same, 2000.
Yeah.
So we kind of grew up in stride.
Yeah.
So we know some of the things. So for me, at least here growing up, aside from sports, there were, at least for me, played Game Boy, GameCube, all the video game consoles, other little things to do. But aside from you, and I see, we're gonna talk about that sport.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say we're gonna talk about that sport that you're wearing.
I saw what you wanted to say.
No,
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about it. But before we get to that, what were some things that you like to do to occupy your time or have fun?
I had 2 younger siblings, still do, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
I have a brother called Isaac who's 1 year younger than me, and a sister called Riley. She was born in 2005. So there was always stuff to do around the house. There was always sort of mum and dad used to run a cafe, so when we got out of school or nursery, we'd either go around to the cafe and just kill some time there, mess around, or go back to the house. I was a big Wii player. I used to love the Wii.
You have any favorite games?
Wii Sports. Lego Star Wars was the fucking...
That's a good shout.
That was the shit, man.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Do you have a favorite Star Wars movie?
Oh, favourite. See, we had this big debate in the house that I'm staying in.
Yeah.
Because someone said episode 3, which I get, but it's kind of crazy. Someone said episode 8, which is baffling.
Definitely not.
Yeah, I think I used to be 3 when I was younger, but I think I'm a 5 guy.
I'm trying to think because you're doing it in the right order, but my mind is.
One person said Revenge of the Sith.
Yep. No.
Which is a bit crazy.
No.
Really
good movie.
When I was a kid, a lot of fun. Like, it's super fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, not for me now. Someone said The Last Jedi.
Definitely not.
Yeah, I think as I've grown older, I've become more and more sort of Revenge of the Sith. I think in terms of imagery, in terms of the way they shot it, and I think the quality that they get on the cameras as well is brilliant compared to the other original movies as well. So,
My favorite Star Wars movie is Return of the Jedi.
I can't argue that.
Such a
can't
good movie.
argue at all.
But I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
you. I just wanted to know.
No,
Continue on. My fault.
So no, I love the Wii. I was running around all the time, sort of super energetic. I used to be in like a running group when I was a kid, like just teaching kids how to run, but that was a bit boring. I used to do scouts, and stuck with that right through to 16.
Right.
So I just kept myself busy. My mum is very similar to me. She can't do nothing very well.
Yeah.
So she always had stuff organised. Sometimes to my dad's very much a home guy. If we go on holiday for like 10 days, when we get back home, he's like, I don't want to leave here for a while. I'm
sounds
ready.
like me. Yeah.
But mum's very much a get stuff planned, got stuff in the future, wants to have something to look forward to. So
Right.
it was an active childhood.
So, going into high school, if you were to compare yourself now to, let's say, freshman year of high school, if you were looking in a mirror and that's who you see, what are some things you would tell that version of you, or if you were to compare and contrast some differences, pros and cons?
Okay, I think so high school works a bit differently in the UK than it does here.
Okay.
Here you go, is elementary, then middle, then high. Is that right?
Yep.
So we don't have middle school. We go from primary school, which is ages 4 through 11,
Wow.
to high school, which is 11 through 16, and then
Really? 11 to 16?
Yeah, then we've got college, and college is 16 to 18, and then it's university, which is what Central would be. So
So college is like
we've got
the minor leagues before
exactly.
the... Wow.
College is a stepping stone for us before we go to uni. It's
kinda
sort of
like
priming
that.
you for adulthood.
Is that just as expensive there as it is here?
College, those 2 years of college, that's free education.
Okay.
That's sixth form. You go, it's government funded. You don't have to pay for it.
Wow.
And I don't know whether it's law, but I think it's law that you have to. You're required to finish it. So you're required to be in education up to 18, unless you're going into an apprenticeship or a master's or something like that.
But yes,
so
you were saying
high school. I was 11
Yep.
when I started.
Wow.
And I just wasn't really sure of myself. I was quite a show off in primary school, and was, so I don't mean to brag here, but it was sort of top of the food chain in primary school. I had, multiple girlfriends at a time.
Oh, okay.
I know.
All right.
I had all the Haribo rings on my fingers.
Yeah.
But high school, I just didn't know what to expect, and it was a high school that was 40 minutes away from me by bus. There was no one else from my town in my year there, so it was fun. I eventually managed to find myself a little group, a little niche, but essentially I went into high school having an idea of who I was, and then losing that for a couple of years at the beginning, because all I needed was a group that I could just settle into and be fine with, because it wasn't as easy as it had been to just go out with friends and hang out, because it was a 40-minute journey to hang out with anyone. So I ended up, playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff like that. And I tell you, I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm very much sort of everything, happens to get you to where you are now.
There you go.
So I wouldn't change it for the world, but I do think that I was just sort of scrambling away, trying to find a niche for myself where I'd feel comfortable. And maybe now I'm much more comfortable in just saying, this is who I am. And
I feel like that'd be very overwhelming to have an 11-year-old in the same building. Because I'm assuming it all goes down the same building, just like it would here. Yeah. So you'd have 11-year-olds who are at the very beginning, and then they're constantly walking around people who are getting ready to go on to the next stage. I feel I'd feel very rushed and overwhelmed a little bit, possibly.
Yeah, no.
What are your thoughts on that?
That's absolutely true. There was parts where, if there's bullying, let's say in a high school here, you're looking at quite a small age range where that balance of power doesn't really last long. And the school that I went to, Baker Upon Rottensdaw Grammar School, who I would give a shout out to, but it's gone down the pan since
really?
I left. Yeah, my sister's there now, and they've gone very totalitarian with it, which I disapprove of, and I'm warning you. But they were very good at making the older students feel empowered to look after the younger kids. They had, year 11s who were the 16-year-olds looking after the new high schoolers and stuff. So they did it well. But if there was, someone who wanted to show off to his mates or something, there was very little that you could do. In reality, you could tell teachers and they get told off and stuff. But
yeah,
in terms of defending yourself or anything like that, if there was someone who decided to act like a prick, then you were sort of just victim to it.
Wow. But okay, so looking back, aside from that, because I feel that regardless of that, of the age gap being much larger there, just looking at it from a microscopic lens, if you were to just look at you, like kind of, if you're just looking back at it, what exactly about you do you think, like, is there like a certain trait or characteristic that you have? What specifically about you do you think led you to persevere up to this point? Since like what changed? Do you think it was just time or?
I think probably just time, man. I think just stumbling. I think I figured out that the way that I want to define who I am is by surrounding myself with people that I care about and people I respect. So instead of, going into high school and desperately thinking I need to be the popular kid and then realizing that's not going to happen, I need to find something else. I just decided to do what I wanted to do, switch that up, do as many things as I could, experience as much as I could, and find people that I loved and cared about, who I respected and listened to, and define myself. There's a great book called Wonder, which is written by someone called...
Did they make that a movie?
Yes, they did.
I think I have that on my movie list, if I think so.
The film was good, but the book, I when I was like 12, 13, I think I read it like 75 times, like endless. I had the audio book and I listened to it endlessly.
All right, I'm going to put that on the list. That's a good show.
But there's a good couple of quotes in that, and one of them was, "Your deeds are your monuments," which is, if the actions that you do when you're living, when you die, that's what you're remembered for. So I decided to just, instead of worrying about everything else, just do the next nice thing. Be defined as being someone who is reliable and good and kind to people.
Wow.
And then...
Is that something that you discovered on your own? Like, that was the mindset you just had?
Yeah, I just started figuring out, look, this is, all this stuff of trying to, be this way or be that, or try and fit in with these people or trying to fit in with those. I just didn't care that much.
Wow.
And it was just annoying. So as high school went on and sort of, getting into sixth form as well, it took me a while. This is all fairly recent, but eventually I just got to a point of stopping caring, sort of, and trying to fit in. The stuff that I do because, it's important to me that I'm seen as reliable, and stuff that I might not necessarily want to, but in general, just doing the next nice thing and trying to be there for the people that I care about. That's...
So if you were to, let's say, I don't know how much the people over there pay attention to American news, kind of vice versa, but I'm sure, and we're obviously going to talk about your journey to get to America, but when you look at it, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, I'd say probably America's number one flaw, or like our biggest problem right now might be mental health, by a long shot.
Yeah.
Is mental health, and I know it's different for many different countries, is mental health as big of an issue or as big of a problem in the UK, or is it kind of just dismissed, like, oh, you're just going through, you'll be fine? So
in Britain, we have a habit of being a bit more closed off with emotions, which I try not to be. I make a distinct effort, and my girlfriend will tell you that.
Shout out to her.
She's not watching. I love her to pieces, but she can't watch me doing this stuff because I put on like a presenter voice, and she just can't hear it. So Amy, if you are watching, I love you, but I don't blame you for not doing it. But yeah, I'm quite good at it in many ways, but even then find myself repressing stuff. But I think for young people in the US particularly, it is harder because there are a lot of things wrong with the UK, socially and everything and whatever, and I'll avoid getting too much into it, but it feels like there's a process for us that we can get back some of that control within the next couple of years, where we can say we can. And
how so?
Just, the way our democratic process is set up is it's possible to change things. You can go in and, it'll still always be old white guys, but it'll be the next generation,
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I got you. I hear you.
those generations actually have the ability to change things. Whereas the way the system's set up here, it's much, much harder to change. So I think young Americans don't have this hope in the back of their heads where this thing will change, this thing will get better, and it'll be fine. It can sometimes be really lonely and restrictive because there's nothing you can do.
When it comes to debating, we are very, very and clearly put on a silver platter bad at listening and then responding. Yeah. We all listen to respond, not listen to listen. Yeah. How is it when it comes to debating and constantly trying to make an argument or prove a point from where you're from?
I think it's easier. I think.
Is it easier to persuade somebody?
In the UK, people recognise that our opinions don't really matter that much, which they just don't here. So I have a whole bunch of views that I care about deeply, and if I'm having a discussion about someone with, I will try and sell them on those views and try and explain why I have them. Right. But I know that people don't need to listen to me. People have no obligation to agree with my ideas. I'll try, and the only time I get sort of frustrated is if someone's just saying no, or if someone's not not giving some logic back and just shutting down. Those are the times where I'll be like, you're just not, you're not engaging. But if someone else has a completely different idea to me, let's say Brexit, which is it was a huge thing. I was Remain. I was too young to vote, but I was on Remain. Still am now. It was a silly decision in many ways. But if someone voted Brexit for the reasons and can explain their reasons, I will absolutely respect their reasoning for doing that, and I won't try and change their mind because they're intelligent enough and they're able to change it themselves or not. And I accept that that's fine. I could have a conversation about something with someone here and they could not be willing to change their mind, and that's okay. But in the US, if someone has a view, it does feel like sometimes they're going to keep going until you agree with them. And if you disagree, that's a valid different opinion. It's just you're wrong. That's how
it should be, though. We have different point of views.
It should be an open discussion. Where I've had discussions with people that I don't necessarily... for a story earlier this year, I did an interview with Turning Point CCSU.
Oh, boy, that's like a bit...
I won't go too much into it.
Yeah, but that's the big thing on campus.
Yeah, it was interesting. And even that conversation I went into with an open mind and saying, if they give me something that's a good point and I come out thinking I hadn't thought of it from that perspective, right, then I'll look at it, I'll research it, I'll analyse it, and that may very well just factor into my argument the next time I talk with someone. Yeah. And I think if you don't go into a conversation with that open mind and being willing to have something change your perspective or alter your perspective, then you're wasting everyone's time.
What about when it comes to social media? Because here, and maybe this is how it is for everybody, for me, and especially this state town, just because, like you said, everyone knows everyone here type of thing. Growing up, just the whole idea of getting a lot of likes and followers was the driving force of social media, and quite possibly might still be today. For me, as soon as they made it an option, made all likes optional, I don't go into Instagram sweating any of that. It's so much healthier that way. It's so great. How is it for you guys? Is it the same? Is it still as big of a problem, or how is it for you?
Yeah, I think it's a generational thing. I think it absolutely is. It's this. I think we came at an age where all these potential things were being unlocked before people realised that it might not be healthy, and before sort of proper regulation of it started. So, I mean, there's talk in some countries of banning social media for people like under 18. I don't think that's necessarily an awful idea, apart from maybe some of the newsy ones. But it is an issue, and there is a lack of regulation, and people can be exposed to all kinds of stuff. And it is, the advent of cyberbullying, as a thing, and people value themselves by their social media, which I try not to do. I post on Instagram and Facebook essentially just to write long paragraphs about anniversaries and stuff, because I'm I'm a show off. I like writing and
Yeah.
use complex vocabulary because it makes me seem smart.
Yeah.
But those are the only posts I do. I don't check the likes. On Twitter, I'll post sometimes about football from my journalist account. Yes, football. And
Yeah.
I don't have TikTok. I uninstalled
Good
TikTok
for you.
in November this year because I felt my attention span getting shorter and I just wasn't about it.
So what I do with TikTok is, this week has been a minor exception, but normally have it deleted all week on Monday, because I did this like thing. I try this semester especially. I've been trying to find ways to create little positive habits.
Yeah.
That I'll place a habit here, here, and it kind of contributes to making like a healthy week, if that makes sense. So every Monday I'll download it. I do this tradition where I'll say like 3 recommendations, post it, delete it.
Cool.
I'll come back next Monday. This week I've been on it a little more just cause, but that's normally what I do.
Yeah.
But that's good.
Yeah.
Cause I was talking about this with some friends, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or if you agree, share your piece. But I've been saying, I really think social media, especially TikTok, with the short clips, has been so bad for a lot of aspects in a person's life.
Yeah.
Lately, music seems like it's just going down the gutter because everyone's only remembering the hooks to a song now, and you can't remember the whole song. If I'm being honest, there are a lot of songs that I have discovered and added to my playlist, and I cannot sing the whole thing. Any 2010 song in that range, Rihanna and all those songs, Drake, like anybody could sing all that. But now it's just, oh yeah, I like this song, but I can't. You sing the hook. That's a big problem. I think that, especially with relationships and more, the divorce rates are getting higher, and you see people getting engaged and they'll get married and then they divorce a year later as if it's like a regular relationship, and not, oh, I just got married. It's all, it was just like, someone I was with.
Yeah.
And there's that, and then there's just so many other things where people are just, it's as if they can't get stimulated enough, and they get bored and find a new thing as if they're swiping to the next video. Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about recently, and it's kind of scary if you think about it that way.
I kind of agree. I think, and I do have it. I do have people tell me that I'm a bit. I know it makes me sound like a bit of a know-it-all prick, so I apologise in advance. But I do think that, it is a real issue. And at the minute, society's in such an advanced place where we have all these great options, and you could put it down to anything. If you wanted to watch the news 30 years ago, you had 3 channels, and they were all reliable because they all had to maintain a standard. Now, if you want to read the news or watch the news, you have hundreds of thousands of different sites, all with their own little biases, all with their own little audience that they're trying to drag people in to make money, to get the SEO headlines and stuff like that. There's just a lot of options. So that's why maybe, marriage and divorce, people get married and then they see another option and and it's just not for me, man. I'm very much not set in my ways, but I try very hard not to fall into that trap. My favourite old music, influenced by my dad, Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen, that sort of stuff.
Wow. Old school.
Old school.
I like that.
It does make me sound pretentious, and I accept it. But that's, that's the stuff that resonates with me, and I love reading. I read books when I can. I'll sit down and watch the news, and it makes me a 50-year-old, and I'm fine with that.
I'm glad you said that. I just started reading No Exit. This
I haven't read that
little bit by John Paul Sartre. The person who just came on before you. They recommended it to me, and they had it on them, so they just gave it to me.
Okay, cool.
No, well, the reading's the wave. It was my thing back in middle school and high school when it was forced upon us. Then I kind of lost my touch with it, but now it feels good.
It feels good, man.
Yeah, it's healthy.
The satisfaction of finishing a book and getting to, because films can. I love film. I love films. My brother's a film studies major, and my dad loves it. He gets it from my dad, and I'd love to pretend that I'm on their level with it, but I'm absolutely not. But I have the same sort of passion for it, but I think books is just one step further, because you get to an end of a film and that last 5 minutes can ruin it if it's trash, right?
That's
it's
fair point.
It's the same for books as well, but books are so much more open to interpretation. You can sit there and read something, and even if it's not exactly what you imagined, the brain just goes running with it.
Because you're making your own movie in your head in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. I remember being 11 or 12 or something and reading The Fault in Our Stars.
Yeah.
And coming downstairs to my mum and dad at 1 a.m, I think it was. And I was meant to be, our bedtime was something like 10 at the latest at that point. And so I'd been up for like 3 hours just reading, and I came down in tears because, spoiler alert, Gus had just died, and I wasn't prepared for that. And I didn't cry at the film. I knew it was going to happen in the film, but there are endless, circumstances in films where stuff like that's happened, and I haven't been as moved, because I think books have a really unique way of activating someone's emotions and imagination and putting you in that perspective. When you're reading something from someone else's perspective, you are them. You're living this story.
Yes.
And I think that's where most of my knowledge and emotional awareness and all of that stuff, vocabulary even, all of that comes from books, and I'm completely in love with them, and I wish I could read more.
Do you have a favorite book that you've ever read? Would you say it's Wonder? Or?
Wonder would probably be the one that means the most to me. I read a really interesting book recently called The Diary of an Oxygen Thief, which is really short, but it's an apparently true story written by an anonymous author.
Wow.
Who essentially is an awful person, and doesn't domestically, but essentially emotionally abuses women because one woman hurt him ages ago. And I think for me it was just such an interesting insight into the human psyche, because from the outside perspective you look at someone like that and they're evil, and they are, objectively, regardless of anything.
Yeah.
But I don't think we can always figure out why people act like the way that they do. And so for me, that book was really interesting for me in terms of figuring out that some people just operate and think in a different way, and actions and thoughts don't excuse actions, but it just gave me an interesting perspective, I think.
It sounds like you were meant to be a journalist. It really does.
I'm a sports one though. I'm a cop out.
But regardless, it just sounds like the way you process things, especially early on. It seems like you were meant to be somebody that can sit at a table and manage different points of views and kind of put pen to paper and kind of put what's meant to be on the paper, or in your case for sports, which is great. Talking to players, asking the right questions, you know how to truly get someone to think and give the best possible response. I think it's in your DNA.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I mean, my mum wanted to be a newsreader when she was younger. She's ended up being a teacher. She works in like exclusion zones in schools. So the kids that can't be in Gen Pop, like can't just be in general education.
Yeah.
They need a little extra help. Mum's always done that, and as much as she, bless her, comes home with a face like a smacked ass at the end of every day, because every day is tough.
Yeah.
She wouldn't, it's one of them where, I'm in awe of her going in and doing something that selfless every day, essentially. But she always wanted to be a journalist. I get my love of writing and films and showing off from my dad a bit, I think. And yeah, I think it just combined, really. And here we are.
Speaking of films, correct me if I'm wrong, because I feel that'd be kind of sacrilegious if you haven't seen this.
Okay.
There's a show right behind you, in case you haven't heard, called The Peaky Blinders.
Yes.
I'm assuming you've seen it.
I have seen it, yeah.
Am I right in saying that? If you're from the UK and you haven't seen Peaky Blinders, like, that has to be, like, one of your king crown jewels, wouldn't it be?
Absolutely. It's
Cillian
brilliant.
Murphy.
It's brilliant. It's a
so
wonderful
good.
thing. And it's all accurate. There are obviously, little mistruths. It's
Of
not
course.
perfectly historically, accurate, but a lot of it is based on truth, and a lot of the images that you saw of Birmingham, they have in that city, they have some of those streets preserved. So some of those scenes were shot in exactly what those streets would have been. They're not sets.
Yeah.
They're not,
That's
they
incredible.
made them up and they put people there. But
Right.
they said, okay, this is the jewelry quarter. This is where all these people lived, and they've got sets of streets where you can go and do a tour and dry your washing on the little scrapey boards and stuff. And it's a brilliant show. I think
incredible.
he's brilliant, Cillian Murphy.
He's incredible.
The only gripe I have with it is now every unoriginal boy aged 17 through 22 dresses as them for Halloween, and I think it's boring.
Yeah.
Just don't put on just a flat cap.
Right.
You don't need to.
I'm
put in
assuming
much
everyone
effort.
also rocks his haircut, right? They rock the picky haircut.
Yeah, a few do, but less and less you're seeing the floppy hair, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was an MMA fighter the other week who was Portuguese, I think, and had this big sort of Justin Bieber. And I was just trying to work out who his publicist was, because he's not going to get many supporters.
Yeah.
The floppy hair is still out, but I think that's taken a step towards...
No, I just had to bring that up too. I felt that it would be absolutely horrendous of me if I didn't mention it.
I love it, man.
It's one of my all-time favorites.
The end of... What season is it at the race course? Season 2, maybe? The end of season 2 is probably one of the best endings to a season in a long, long time. Certainly, it's certainly up there for me recently.
Yeah, my friends and I always try and do the Irish copper's accent, where it's like, you picky bastards.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not
no,
bad,
but it's
man.
so, the accents are so good.
Yeah.
Because the fact that a lot of them are American, just doing the UK accent. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Where you have a lot of Americans playing these UK roles, or they have the accent rather than getting someone from England.
It's the same the other way around, isn't it? I mean, look at Star Wars. Star Wars was an American production, and we had a Brit doing an American accent in John Boyega. He's British.
Really?
Yeah. Christian Bale.
That's
British.
that's what I keep forgetting.
Yeah. So
when I heard Bale's natural accent for the first time, my jaw dropped. I couldn't
crazy.
believe it.
He's a brilliant.
He's one of the goats.
But I think it just goes both ways.
Right.
I think a lot of Netflix productions will get American actors.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah, because it's just easier to get Americans here. But that in Hollywood, I think you'll still find, if you searched a couple of people up that you thought were American, I think you'd find.
Oh yeah, for sure. My thing is, I personally don't mind it, but I don't know. Maybe it's because just everyone thinks of Americans in this certain light, so I'm not sure. But for us, it just seems that whenever we try and do another accent, the people from that place can just tell, oh, you're not. Yeah. So when you watch certain things, are you ever thinking to yourself, oh, well, that's not right, or you can notice, or do you think they mostly do a good job?
I think they mostly do a good job. I mean, the actors, if they didn't do a decent job, then they wouldn't get it. But there is one. Right. There was one recently where, if he does turn out to be British, then I apologise, and I should probably research this. But I couldn't even tell you his name. But he's one of the main guys in the Umbrella Academy. I think he plays the oldest son, and he was in what looked like a pretty rough-looking Christmas romance film, where he was doing a British accent. And that was one where I saw the trailer and thought, stop. And if he does turn out to be British and that's his actual voice, then I apologise, and he does a great American in the Umbrella Academy. But if it's the other way around...
I also think I believe he is, the guy from Sons of Anarchy, the main character, I believe he's also from... I think he's from the UK as well.
You might be right.
And I believe he said that the show ruined his accent.
Yeah, I've been taking on a couple of Americanisms while I've been
that's what I was going to ask. Do you think, if let's say you stay here for 10 years, your accent will just be long gone? Or do you think if you plot me in England and I live there, let's say from now till 2035, I'll be talking like this, and that was rough, but you know what I mean.
That's fine. No, I think if you spend enough time anyway, you'll pick up little... I don't think the accent will ever go. Because there's too many words that, are set. But I think the things that I've picked up more are words that I wouldn't otherwise say, but hear a lot here. So I would never say bro in the UK. Never, ever, ever.
Yeah, Will, what
bro.
are some things that we say here that you would never say?
I'd be going around saying, "Oh, that's nice to hear, bro," or something like that. I hear myself saying it and just wince and cringe.
Bro, I don't really use the word bro that much.
I think it's just the circle that I've been hanging out with is what they say, and just the way. I think there's an intonation in the way that you say things as well. Like there's like no, man. It's just like there's in the UK it's quite like you say words are said pretty quick. This doesn't make sense.
I maybe this could be an example or maybe not, but I noticed when you were saying your siblings' names, you said a sis named. Not I have a sister whose name is.
Yeah, a sister named. Yeah. A sister. Yeah. Yeah, we just shorten things because we say like 5:30, which would be 5:30. But you don't say. Yeah. So you'd say past 5.
You would say half of 5. You just half 5.
Half 5.
That means 5:30.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the thing I'm going to reference this because my girlfriend mentioned it, and this is in the public sphere.
Okay.
The reason we say I'm going to get a Chinese which has become a big thing on TikTok. We don't say I'm going to get a Chinese food. It's a Chinese takeaway. We've just cut the word takeaway. So we'd say we're going to go get an Indian. We're not going to pick up an Indian.
I've never heard this.
It's a big thing on TikTok at the minute, apparently.
Yeah.
Where English people are being criticised for it.
Oh, boy.
But we're just getting a Chinese takeaway and just not saying the word takeaway.
Yeah.
Go get, an Italian. We're not going to go pick up an Italian person. It's just
that's great.
We just shorten stuff. We just have very little patience and very little willingness to say stuff that we don't need to say.
Another thing, and you mentioned earlier, you're wearing a Fly jersey. Yeah. Can I ask who's the player on the back?
There's no player on this one. This is a Milan AC Milan jersey. Yep. But I just collect them. I'm just a big fan, and I like a thrift store. I like Depop.
Oh hell yeah!
Vintage that stuff. So I'll go on and throw £10 bids on stuff, and if I win, then great. So
nice.
I've got an unhealthy amount of them.
Real quick before we talk about it, what's the currency difference between? So what's £1 compared to $1?
I think £1 is the equivalent of around $1.3.
Oh, so not really.
I'm sure
it adds up.
It has been better, but then Liz Truss screwed up the economy.
Oh boy.
Boris didn't help, and neither did Rishi. So
don't know those people,
fine.
but
No,
it doesn't sound good.
No, and that's not a political thing either.
Imagine if there's someone watching like traitor.
Yeah, no. I mean, she was only there for 40 days, Liz Truss.
Oh my God.
Managed to tank the economy in quite a spectacular way.
That's not good.
No, along with the Chancellor. So I was here.
Oh my God.
I was here thinking, I'm really glad that I've transferred my money over already, because I probably would have had. I think I transferred over around a couple of grand when I first moved over, and I probably would have had a good couple of hundred less.
Oh my God!
Based on her prime ministerial ship.
What are some not mannerisms, but obviously, you'll get the middle finger anywhere. Yeah. Italians, they'll do this, but like, are there any certain things? Is it like, do you guys give a fist? Like, what do you do to if you're trying to convey frustration or tell somebody to pretty much F off?
If we're frustrated, most of the time we'll hide it and be passive aggressive about it. We're good at that.
Yeah.
We've got the 2 fingers up as well, so that's flipping someone off. Yeah. We do the middle finger as well.
Yep.
Piss off is a nice.
Piss off. If I'm being, I say that a lot, regardless of the accent.
But conveying frustration is like I don't think there's that many mannerisms. There's some words that we say in the UK that you perhaps wouldn't say here that I'll avoid saying. For that reason.
Hobknocker?
Oh no, nothing quite like that. You can take up like knobhead. We've got some terminology, but in terms of physical actions, it is mainly just or wait for someone to turn their head.
The funny thing is that we were talking about this. So I'm Italian and Puerto Rican. In terms of ethnicity, I might not look Italian, obviously you can tell, but I It's funny because when I really think about it, and obviously back in the day it was completely different, but now in this generation where everyone has a lot of free will and they could just walk away and they have the freedom to do a lot of things, I really just think about it where if somebody were to just call me a very foul thing like that in terms of anything Italian or American, like if they call me a grease ball or if they call, I would just laugh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just because I sit there and I think, who was the person that was so frustrated that they came up with these swears? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you could, you could place me in probably like one of the roughest parts, aside from getting my ass kicked.
Yeah.
Roughest parts of England, and they could just go in on me, and I would just laugh because I understand like they'll be mad or they could be genuinely being prejudiced. I'm like they're just words. I don't know.
Well, the way prejudice works in the UK, and I'm not going to pretend that there aren't, there definitely are, people who are. I'm going to avoid saying racist because I'm very big on. I did sociology at A level, which is in between our GCSEs, which is our SATs, and in between that and high school. That's 2 years of college. I did sociology, and I think I find it personally very hard to blame people for the way that they act and the things that they believe because it's just stuff they've been taught. And the stuff that we've been taught is the same to us. We believe it. And unless you're very good at inward reflection or at taking things with a pinch of salt, you are just going to believe what you're told. And so I'm going to avoid saying that people are racist and instead say, perhaps don't fully understand.
I think those people are everywhere, though.
Yeah. So those people do exist. Yeah. But it is much more, it's less frequent and more subtle in the UK than it is here. Here you'll get people who aren't racist and show no prejudice. They'll, launch into like a Nigerian accent or something and it's sort of okay. And it's fine because it's the same as doing like an Italian accent. Yeah. And I think that's because there are so many cultures here. But if you did a Nigerian accent in the UK, that's out of order. Like, it's just not really acceptable. Yeah. So I think it's just that, you wouldn't go somewhere and people wouldn't start saying stuff like that to you. Right. At very, very worst, people would start saying stuff behind your back. But even then, they'd need to see something. Yeah. In some cases, they need to see something in the news about, Italians and Americans or something like that before their prejudices started kicking in, really.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard something somewhere, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, they said, and we're going to talk about this, I know we went off a little sidetrack, but they said if you think racism in the United States is bad, it's worse in the UK.
No,
you can fact check me. I'm just saying that's what I've heard.
I understand it, but I genuinely don't think it's true, really. I think there's more, it's much more obvious here. There is subtle stuff in the UK, and it isn't grey. And certainly recently, there's been some validation from certain corners of the people who are in power of terminologies against certain races of immigrants and stuff that I would say isn't good and validates a lot of views about those people that aren't accurate and even encourages it to a certain extent. So it does exist and it is awful and it does make my blood boil in a way that very few other things do. Yeah. And my dad has been on the end of some of my rants about it. So has Amy. So a lot of people have heard me just go on about it. So I'll avoid doing it now. It does exist in the UK and it is a problem and it is bad. But it is worse here than I thought it would be.
Yeah, but I feel that you notice... It's really bad, I think, for anybody, regardless of what ethnicity or whatever their cultural background is. It's really bad in sports. Really bad. Yeah. Example being what we're going to talk about. Soccer or football. So my thing is, and it makes sense for you guys, because you don't have an American football. We have an American football. Yeah. If you were to change the name of American football for us, what would you call it? 'Cause that's the problem that we have.
Egg ball is what we'd have. Ball shaped like an egg. Throw ball. You
compare that.
Toss.
Okay, what do you think's worse, that or soccer?
Well, it's just that you don't play football with your feet, do you? Like your football, you don't play.
I mean, it starts with the kickoff.
Yeah,
There's the kickoff and field goals.
There's probably like 6 kicks over the course of a game. Yeah. I understand where you're coming from.
No. I'm just saying.
Look,
I'm just saying.
Look, I think I've had this discussion with a lot of Americans, and I know I'm right, and they don't. And I get that there's nothing. It can't be changed now. Like, it's way too late.
Well, that's the problem.
The NFL people aren't going to come out and say, "Yo, guys, it's egg ball now.
Yeah,
everyone stick to it." So, but it's just like. We'll come over, we'll say like NFL or American football. You know what we mean. Just say football.
That's the problem though, because if I was from the UK, it would make sense because we don't have that.
Say European.
You have rugby. There's rugby.
Yeah, rugby.
Rugby's popping everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's the problem.
Yeah,
We somehow I don't want to use the word evolutionize, but we kind of took rugby and just made it its own thing with pads and the whole shebang. Mm-hmm. If we never did that, I think everyone would call it football. Yeah, that's just the only problem, I think.
I think you're right. I think the thing is, football comes from an old English thing where people would get a pig's bladder that was full of various things.
Wow.
And it'd be 2 separate towns, and every male from those towns would have to get that ball through the other town's graveyard arch.
Oh my god.
Right, that's where it started. And then it became sort of standardized and it spread out. So it's very similar to American football because the whole point essentially was just to get the ball to the other side. Yeah. That's what football starts with. And whereas European football, you do that once and then you start again from the beginning and you start from the middle and then it becomes this end-to-end like transitional weird mush. Whereas here, you started with the kick in, and then someone would catch it and try and run it back, and then they'd kick it back, and eventually one team would get it, and then more rules get introduced, and you start throwing it, and you start...
How do you feel when Americans say that I'll say football out of respect for you. How do you feel when they say that it's boring?
I understand it. I get it. I'm a nerd with it, so I really go in depth on the tactical side of things and really look at the shapes that the teams are organised in and how the manager influences it. Yeah, I get it because here, if you look at your sports, I mean, baseball's an exception really, but basketball you'll have 200 points, in a game. American football, you're racking up 7, and it's as much as there's these big breaks in between. For the second that the ball's in play, it's so intense and so high pressure. Hockey as well, it's so end to end. Even if there aren't that many goals, it's smaller and really intense. And even with baseball, you've sped it up now with the pitch clock. I went to a Yankees game last week and it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Have you discovered any favorite teams for other sports here?
I was a Niners fan when I came. I'm a 49ers fan because they've invested in Leeds. Leeds are my team back home. Okay. So they invested in Leeds like 3 years ago. The year they went to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G. Yep. That was the first year I was watching, but I didn't really understand any of it. Yeah. And then,
do you have a better grasp of it now?
The last 2 years, yeah. Nice. Particularly since being here, I've got a really good grasp. I started playing Madden and stuff.
So you'll say Niners?
I'm a Niners fan.
I respect that.
In a big way. I live with an Eagles fan.
Oh boy!
So when we lost the championship game, having had all of our quarterbacks,
everybody got hurt.
Yeah, it was pretty heartbreaking to be honest. But Liam thankfully didn't rub it into.
Well, and as you shouldn't have, because the thing is that especially the NFC compared to the AFC, I'm sure you know your conferences now and how everything works. It's literally the Niners and the Eagles. It'll probably be those two duking it out again in the same game. So
I think so. I mean,
barring injuries.
Yeah, I mean, touch wood, because we don't know who our QB is next year because we got Lance is going to start the season because he's our only fit one.
The GM, he said it's Lynch. John Lynch. Yeah, he said it's going to be
Lance. Yeah, he said
not Lance.
It's Purdy's sure to lose, but Purdy won't be back for a couple of weeks. So Lance is going to start the season.
I think he's throwing again.
I think they said they weren't going to risk him week 1.
Really?
Yeah, because when he came back on in that championship game, he'd snapped a tendon, so he couldn't grip the ball. Yeah. So essentially, when he was catching it, he was holding it like that with this hand just flat, and was just giving. That's why he was just giving it to McCaffrey because he couldn't. Yeah. So I think I don't know who we play first week off the top of my head, but I think Lance has also only had 4 games pretty much since we drafted him. Right. I think they're willing to give, if he's fully fit, I think they're willing to give him a couple of snaps because
They'll figure it out.
ideally, I think they want to be able to play Purdy for most of the game and then throw in Lance at the end or the other way around. I think they'll just see. And we've got Darnold as third option and he's fine.
No, the Niners will be fine. But going back to your football, so break down all of this for me because I only pay attention when it's World Cup or Euros or like the really big ones. But it seems like there's a game on every day. I feel like whenever I open my phone, a game's already over.
Yep.
Holland, wherever the hell he's playing, scores like 3 goals and everyone's going crazy. And I'm like, I didn't even know there was a game on today.
Yeah.
So break down what leagues are going on around what times of the year normally and how that all works.
So every league in Europe, pardon me, every league in Europe essentially plays from August through to May. Vaguely.
So everything's wrapping up right now?
Yeah, it's getting closer and closer to the end. And so that's the Bundesliga, which is the German league.
Bundesliga, yeah.
Pardon me. The Italian league, which is Serie A. La Liga, which is the Spanish league.
Yep.
Ligue 1, which is the French league, and the Premier League, which is the England league.
I know 4 of the 5. Pat on the back there. Okay.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
So, most of the leagues have set times that they'll put the games in. The standard in the UK, for instance, is Saturday at 3 p.m. And there's a TV blackout.
3 p.m. for you or 3
p.m.? 3 p.m. for in the UK.
And what's the time difference between you here?
5 hours. So for us, 3 p.m. would be
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the standard, and at that time there's a media blackout. None of those games that are on at Saturday 3 p.m. can be shown on TV in the UK to encourage fans to go to the games because there's a theory that if we showed all those games, people would just be able to stay at home and watch TV. But that's getting a bit more sort of ancient now and probably won't last very long.
Yeah.
But because of that, all the TV companies that pay the big bucks to show them try and get as many games moved around as possible. So if you're looking at a weeknight, you'll probably start at either 7:30 or 8 o'clock, which is 2:30 or 3 here. That's consistent. Same with the Champions League, which is the European competition where the French teams play against the English teams and all that. They're always Tuesday or Wednesday, 7:30 or 8. And then, there's pretty much just a game every evening. But because of it makes sense over there because you get home, you chill out a bit, and then you watch the game. Whereas here, you're at work and the game's just going on.
Yeah.
And it's been very annoying for me as a avid fan to be working in the canteen on campus and have an earphone playing the commentary for it and just missing it.
So is it Premier for England?
Yeah.
So whenever that's going on, so is that with all the teams like Tottenham and all?
Yeah.
So are you one of the people that does the Tottenham chant? That's a shit. Like, do you like them or hate them?
No, I don't mind.
I love
Tottenham.
that chant. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny, man. No, I don't mind Tottenham. I'm a Leeds United fan, so we're
what are the teams in the
top? So the top few will be Manchester City, Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, Liverpool. Those are probably the biggest names over here. Then there's like West Ham, Crystal Palace. A lot of people have been watching Ted Lasso, which has
it's on my list.
It's increased a lot of knowledge about the teams that are there,
right,
which has been interesting and nice. So those are the big ones. And Tottenham are a London team. A lot of teams are based in London. So pretty much every team that's based around London chants that because local rivalries are a huge thing.
Yeah, so where does Leeds...
Leeds is in the north, so we're about...
Yeah, how do you fare in all of this?
We're about an hour away from Manchester. Manchester's our biggest sort of... Man United particularly, we were 2 teams from the north. Man United always had all the money and we were always sort of trying to catch up with them. And Leeds are known as Dirty Leeds because we just used to hurt people, essentially, a lot. And we've had a couple of really good teams in our history, you know, but nowhere near their level of success or anything. But we're a one club city, so the whole city's united behind them.
Nice.
And in terms of a fan base, which is what makes football and is why... Yeah. I'll explain in a sec. But essentially, because of our fan base, it's just really passionate. It's the same for the Manchester clubs. It's the same for teams like Chelsea, who had the bad fortune of scamming us out of a victory a while ago, back in the 70s, and we've hated them since.
Yeah.
It's just that's how long rivalries last. Chelsea are 4 hours away from us, and we hate them with a deep, deep passion because of something that happened in the 70s, largely.
Right.
But the thing that makes football, and the reason that I understand why Americans don't really get it, is because it's made by the passion that's there, and it's made by the idea that, for an hour and a half, it doesn't matter who you're with. You could be with family, you could be with no one else. For that hour and a half, you're on the same team as 40,000 other people.
Right.
And there are ghosts in that stadium. There are people, you're sat there in your seat and you can look forward 6 rows, and I can see the place where my granddad used to sit.
Wow.
And I can look across the stadium and see where I sat when I was a kid. And you can just feel all this energy and all this, when a goal goes in, it's like the roof has been burst off the place, and it's just a sensation of feeling, and you throw yourself around, and for that moment, for that one sort of instant, nothing else matters. Whatever worries you've got, there's none of it exists anymore.
Yeah.
Because you just immerse yourself in it, and even when you're losing, you're united in that sadness and that frustration and that anger.
Yeah.
And it's just, I've got goosebumps talking.
Yeah,
about
no,
it.
that was incredible.
Makes me a real nerd.
Wow.
But it is, there's, I think, in terms of pure moments, in terms of things that have given me that one instant of pure, unadulterated happiness with no other thoughts, no other considerations, football is really, really up there for me in terms of stuff that'll live with me forever.
And that's why it's the number 1 sport in the world, globally.
Yeah,
for that reason.
I think if more, you need Americans to go to football games, and you need soccer games here. You need them to go, and you need them to buy in, and you need clubs to make them buy in, because if they don't, then MLS won't take off.
Right.
In the league, the 4th division in England, Wrexham's become a hugely popular thing here, because of Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. And the reason that people love it is because they see the passion that these people put into this 5th division club. This club that has no money, has no sort of... It's not this big thing, it's not a headliner, it's not making national news up until they bought them. But every week, the people in that town would go out and they'd make it there. And you see it in the passion of captains, people who grow up supporting a club and then go on to captain them. Mark Noble at West Ham, he played there his whole career, and now he's running stuff behind the scenes. And it's just, it makes such an impact on people. And
totally random, but what are your thoughts on Wayne Rooney? He's one of my top 5 all-time favorite players.
I understand that. He's a Man United player, so I find it very hard to reconcile it.
So he's an op. He's
an op. Yeah, no, I don't love him. He was always a phenomenal player.
Yeah.
He and he's done a great job here as well when he came to DC. The first time round, made a big difference. His quality is clear to see, and he has a lot of respect from me because he had the quality of, for a while, had the quality of Messi and Ronaldo. But they are very, very clever, very intelligent players, probably more so than Rooney. They would, and still do, conserve their energy and be ready when they're needed to have the biggest impact, because they can change a game like that.
Yeah.
And Rooney had that ability, but put his body through hell again and again. And part of that was drinking as well, and, the Messi and Ronaldo, very good diets, very good, and Rooney never really had that. He was known for partying and eating and whatever.
Yeah.
But when he was on the pitch, he just wouldn't stop running, and there was a real he needed to win every game. And as much as that's true for Ronaldo and Messi, they knew, and they're right, they knew that the best way that they can win a game is by staying out of the way until they're needed, and then making a difference in that moment. Yeah. Really didn't know that. He just ran around.
I didn't know that. No, yeah, for me, whenever I played FIFA, I always just picked England.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into this because whenever someone would ask me who do I root for in the World Cup, aside from America, because I know it's gonna sound messed up. But I don't root for them because I know they're not gonna win.
Yeah.
If they make it, I'll root for them and be like, oh yeah, they're gonna keep making it good for them. But they're not my primary team.
Yeah.
It sounds so weird.
I get what you mean.
I mean, we kind of accepted our fate here. At least for me.
I do think that's something that needs to be overcome though for football, because one of the reasons I love Leeds and one of the reasons that I'm so so happy to be a supporter of them is because no one can doubt my love for them. No one can say you only love them because they're winning or anything like that.
Right.
It's almost like I'm purposefully being edgy, even though I'm a Leeds fan by birth.
Yeah.
But I'm standing out and I'm saying I love this club for this reason and this is what matters. And even though we're close to getting relegated this year.
Oh boy.
But I'm not going to stop supporting in the Championship or anything. Next year I'll go to as many games as I can.
Yeah.
Because those moments of adversity, Leeds were in the lower divisions for 15 years before we got to the Premier League, and that first year in the Premier League, everything felt so amazing and so clean and so new. And then the 2 years after that have been awful because things didn't go well on the pitch, but they were never going to match up to that first year anyway because it's the moments of adversity that make the great moments
so much more special. Yeah.
So I think that's a stepping stone that Americans need to be like.
Yeah,
we know we're bad.
Yeah.
But then when you win,
that's
that
true.
needs to be huge.
That's true, but
come on.
But the thing is man, soccer players or football players from all the other countries look so dude, Neymar, he's my all-time favorite player. He's just so fly. Yeah. He's such a cool dude.
He glides.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's so many cool players outside of the U.S. For here, when it comes to basketball, obviously, we have LeBron. Yeah. We have Tom Brady. We have some of the kings for all the other sports. Serena Williams. Yeah. For the males, it's a little different, obviously. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, America's really good at...
Tiger Woods.
Yeah, America's really, really good at creating sports that no one else wants to play and then announcing themselves world champions. Yeah. No, no, you are right.
But to be fair, not for basketball. Not that
tennis, you're right. No, yeah, absolutely. It's just a little joke.
But now for basketball, all these other European players are coming in, or from all over the world. Now you have Jokic, who's cooking everyone. You have Luka, who's terrorizing everybody, and Embiid is destroying everyone. Yeah. For all these other French players that have come throughout the history, so they're getting better with it, and it's showing. But, because what I want to get into was. So my whole life, whenever I played FIFA, I always picked England because of Rooney. I picked a random team, saw Rooney, I scored a couple goals with him, and I was like, all right, this is my guy. This is who I'm rocking with. I'm rocking with England. And then saw Neymar, so I'm like, oh, England and Brazil, really like these. Like, I guess I'll just say these two. And then we get to the Euro Cup of 2021 now, was it?
Yeah.
And... it was my very first time I ever discovered the Euro Cup. Somehow. I never knew what it was. I always watched the World Cup. My friends they're big soccer heads, but it seems it's like a natural thing. I just somehow avoid all the football talk. And it just somehow, or maybe it flies over my head, but I just never knew when things would go on. Here we are. And this is, Italy's in it. Yeah. And during COVID, for some reason, it's because I watched The Sopranos. That was definitely what it was. Yeah. But my love for Italy just shot through the roof. And something happened where every single game I did not miss for the Euro Cup.
Nice.
When it came for Italy. Mm-hmm. And I'm... each game, I'm making like a joke out of it, but I'm also like, I'm pretending as if I'm like from Italy, like I'm saluting the TV, and I was playing their national anthem before the games, and I would send it to my friends, and we get closer and closer and closer, and all these other teams are doing good. France choked, that was embarrassing. Mbappe, love you, but that was sad. And then we just get to this point where also I'm seeing England. And they're singing the whole "It's Coming Home" song, and I'm like, "What the hell are they talking about? Like, do they not know these paisans?" It was this whole thing, and me and my friends were joking. And shout out to Chris Maldo. He was all in on the England bandwagon, and he's singing all the time. "It's coming home," and it was this whole thing, and it just built up to this beautiful, insane final where you have this team who I used to root for. I'm like, oh my God, this hurts. And then if Italy, and what I did was you want to talk about undying passion and love. Dog, I wore a suit and tie for the final. Man. Dressed up and I dressed up. I said, I doing like this is it. Like and I dressed up and everything, and I sat in front of this TV with a bunch of other Italian friends of mine, and when they went down 0-1, and we're like, oh my... That was
early as well, 3 minutes in.
The emotions were just insane. And the fact that I think they went to 2 or 3 PKs in that whole
Yeah.
ride alone.
Yeah, we missed 3 in a row.
Yeah,
penalties,
and one of them was the young buck.
Saka,
Saka, yeah,
Sancho, and Rashford. Were the
yeah.
3.
Wow, that's crazy. You know all of them, all the ones who missed. No, but I remember Saka when he missed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, was he the youngest one? Was he like 19?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, everyone kind of said, really young guy, couldn't rise to them all, like, who could, type of thing. But oh my God, you want to talk not just a goal, but when it gets to PKs,
the tension.
Is. I don't even know if I've ever felt that in football, American football.
That's what it does. So that's if you take that down 20%. That's what every game is for people who love that. That obviously the finals, they're a huge occasion. But
right.
That's every game. And if you go to a game, up it by 10% because it's not just 5 mates. It's 5 mates surrounded by 30,000 other ones, and it's crazy. That's what that's what it can do. The reason I love football is because there are so few goals that it can be 0-0 for a whole game, and 2 minutes can change it.
Yeah.
One random kick long can take a weird bounce and roll through, and a striker can score, and you can been on the floor for the whole game and sat there tense, like, oh, we're gonna concede, we're gonna lose, all these bad stuff's gonna happen, and then that one moment of ecstasy can change the whole thing. And there's very few other sports where one little thing like that could put the whole thing on its head.
I could only imagine how the French and these Argentinians felt in that World Cup final in those last 10 minutes.
England, Italy wasn't a great game.
It was ugly. It was ugly.
We got the goal in the first 3 and we sat back. Didn't attack.
The thing with Italy is they just play defense and just hope that if they ever made a run,
exactly. And you got your goal from a corner, and then Chiellini pulled back.
Chiellini, yes.
It was tough, but that was an awful watch. As a final, it was full of tension.
Ugly.
It was great because we were there, but it was awful.
Yeah.
Whereas the Argentina-France one was
God.
a brilliant fight. It's one of the best World Cup finals in living history. I mean, I've seen them all since 2010. 2010 was the first World Cup that I saw, and none of them have been that good. But a lot of people much older than me have said that it's the first.
Was 2010 Brazil Germany?
2010 was.
Or was that?
No, that was a semi-final in 2014 when Germany won 7-1. That was a semi.
So bad.
Yeah, that was rough.
But yes.
But yeah, most of them have been 1-0 because I think Spain beat the Netherlands 1-0 in extra time in 2010. Germany won in extra time in 2014. In 2018, it was France, and they beat Croatia 4-2, and that was a bit sort of
Yeah, so they were disgusting.
Yeah, and this game was just open. Like, it was just fun. There were goals flying in, and Messi and Mbappe both put in some of the best performances.
2 of some of the best players in the world are doing their thing.
It was one of the only games where you see all this narrative built up around these 2 players. Because oftentimes you'll see it and then one might show up, one might not. Neither of them might show up. They might have a little spark.
Right.
But that's one of the few occasions where... And Mbappe didn't do it up until he got the penalty. Mm-hmm. And then he got the penalty and he turned it on like that. And Messi was like that the whole game. Every time he touched the ball in extra time, he was creating something. And it was just brilliant. So the stress that...
It was insane.
That fans of those countries would have been going through, because I was tense watching it, and I had no, I think I had £3 on Argentina to win, and that was the only thing I had on the.
So 2 things: who do you think is the GOAT? And second, do you think Mbappe would eventually surpass whoever it is? Because he's accomplished so much as such a young guy.
Yeah, I'll answer the first one second. So I don't think Mbappe will ever get that far, and that's not a judgment on him.
Third, real quick, do you think Haaland will be better than him or is better than him?
I think Haaland's a very different player.
Okay.
I can put it in the context of the GOAT debate, because the GOAT debate now really is Messi and Ronaldo. And it's a recency bias thing. People say Maradona, people say Pele, and no one can really argue against that because we don't have the footage to prove it. Yeah. But at the end of the day, football has advanced endlessly. So if you put Maradona in today's game, he wouldn't be that great. He'd still be brilliant, but he'd be it'd be tougher.
It's because everyone's just so much faster and stronger.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. So
yeah.
I think in terms of who the best player ever is, I think for me it's Messi. And I understand Ronaldo. Ronaldo is a mentality monster. You know, he doesn't have the same just natural agility and quickness off the mark as Messi does. He built everything that he has and dragged himself up and keeps himself in perfect condition now. And I think that's partly why he finds it so hard to accept that his time's gone now, and why all the headlines around him have been so tough in the last year, because for him, he's not putting in any less work and he's not trying any less hard. Age just does matter at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Messi's consistency, he's got more goals than Ronaldo, he's got more trophies. I just don't think there's an argument for me. And the Mbappe-Haaland debate kind of fits into that. Mbappe's a more technical, more talented player. Haaland is already one of the best finishers in history. If you put him in the box, the power with which he hits the ball, the accuracy with which he strikes it, and he's more important than either of those, because a good finisher doesn't make an elite striker.
Right.
Getting into the positions to score those, that's what makes an elite striker, because people forget sometimes that defenders are professionals too. They've been trained their whole lives. This is how you need to look after a striker. This is where you need to get in. This is where you need to stop him from shooting from.
Yeah.
They're trained on that. So this isn't just someone going in and just getting the ball whipped into them.
Right.
This is defenders trying to get them away from that area, and his ability to completely ignore the defenders and just smash it in is unrivaled. But he isn't. I think being the best striker ever does. He couldn't be the best football player ever.
Regardless, for Ronaldo, at least whether they put him at 2 or wherever, in my opinion, I think he came up with the greatest celebration in the history of sports. You can debate. I mean, I can't think of another.
It's made its name, hasn't it? I think it probably is in terms of how well it's travelled. I think that's it, and it's just fun to do, isn't it? You know,
so great.
I hate the guy with a Man United again. Man United,
yeah.
You know, but I think he can sometimes act like a diva. At me, Cristiano. If you wanna, at me, man. At T Houston Bets on Twitter. At me, bro.
Adam. Yeah.
So I think he's a bit of a diva sometimes, and I don't like him, but that's fun to do. Like wheeling away after you scored, jumping up.
Yep. Or just saying it in general.
It's fun, man.
Yeah. It's so great. It's great.
I don't think he did it on purpose, because he didn't start doing it till he was at Real Madrid. I think he just did it one time because
it was just natural.
And then he only does it for big goals.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. This is allergies.
No, you're good.
Okay. But he smashed it. It's just travelled so well, man.
So normally, and even for this, I normally never script anything, never write anything down. But there were a few bullet points I made just to make sure that I covered this with you, because I don't know when I'll ever get the chance to talk with somebody from such a distance. Couple more big things I want to talk about before we talk about how you came here.
I'm sorry, man. Do you mind if I clear my throat and then?
Yeah, good. No, go ahead.
I don't know.
I think it was bathroom.
The bathroom was just down here.
Yeah. Straight ahead through the door,
Go ahead, man.
and then right to the right.
I don't know why that's at.
No, you're good. Well, that's going on. Let me make sure. You're still good, yes. Okay. So, for anybody still listening up to this point, I appreciate you watching. Please make sure you subscribe, leave a like, do all the good things. This has been going pretty good so far. So, not gonna spoil anything. We have a very, very good episode coming up right after this one as well. And yeah, no, this is good. I'm gonna make sure that he's good, but we'll see. Feeling better?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know.
No, you're good. No, no. There's some of my friends have been getting their asses kicked by.
I figured I've been
allergies.
through that question so much. It was better to just let you start it again rather than.
No, you're good.
You force it through.
As long as you're I'm not make sure you die.
No, I'm surviving.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
So yes, and I'm glad you kind of that happened right before, because we didn't.
Yeah.
So right before we talk about the second half is the what brought you to America and everything. A couple more things I wanted to run by you. Thoughts on the Beatles?
Brilliant. I mean, one of the most influential music bands or artists of any generation ever. You know, in terms of the way they influence music in the UK, of course, but here as well. You know, it created pop to an extent. They brought in all these influences and went through so many different phases as well. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is a brilliant song, but they wrote it on LSD, and they don't hide it because Lucy, Sky, Diamonds, LSD.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. They went through so many different phases from I Want to Hold Your Hand, which was their number one hit in the US. I know that because I ran trivia at Elmer's last night. Nice. It's so different. It's such a scope, and they just had such a big influence on everyone. I think it's unbelievable.
My favorite UK top two from the UK is at the moment Dua Lipa, who I was on the Dua Lipa train before she even blew up. Okay. And anybody can at me, and that's a fact. I was in the top 0.1% of listeners back in 2020. Wow. Because I, for some reason, went on a little Dua Lipa discography thing. Because sometimes once in a while I'll be like, I don't know if I know a lot about this person's music, or let me look into it. So I was listening to her music in stride from the very beginning, and then all of a sudden she announces she's going to be dropping an album, which was Future Nostalgia, and I'm thinking, oh my god, nobody else knows who this is, and I cannot wait for this. So that happens, and then boom, she drops it. It's already on my wall. You can see right over there. That is one of my all-time favorite albums. It's just so it's insane. The timing couldn't have been better. I went to one of her concerts last year in Boston. It was phenomenal. Yep. She's incredible. So Dua Lipa, and then I have him on the wall hiding up there. Not a fan of the poster. It just came with the vinyl. But Harry Styles, dude, he's a beast. He is. Shout out One Direction too, man. Yeah. All of them doing that.
They traveled okay, didn't they? Yeah. No, he's doing what many people have struggled to do, which is, break the US market. And he seems a genuinely lovely man as well.
Seems like such a great guy.
And, there's not everything I like that he does. I thought I want to be clear, his acting's probably better than anything I could do. But his acting in... What was the one with Florence Pugh? I can't remember.
Yes. Don't worry, darling. Yes.
Don't worry, darling.
I was a fan.
It was okay up until he started shouting at her. When just as he was crying about the fact that he'd grassed on her, and I was sat there thinking, I'm not sure. But he's broken the market. I love his music. Not all of it's for me, but it doesn't need to be. I'm not the audience.
I thought the trailer for that movie was really bad, but once I saw the movie, I was thinking to myself, oh my god, this is his first time he's in a main role. This is incredible. Yeah. For a first time, and he didn't. It's not like he was like Millie Bobby Brown, who was acting since she was like 5. Yeah. This dude just decided to pick it up and go from there. And Florence Pugh, Florence
Pugh is brilliant.
But isn't she also from?
She's from the UK. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
She already is an A-lister, but
Marvel. She has so many great roles.
She has a ridiculous future ahead of her.
Yeah. Oh my god.
She's
gonna be one of the GOATs, I think.
I'm pretty convinced that she'll be up there.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So the reason why after the Beatles, what made me think of that is because Harry Styles also even admitted when he made, I believe the album's called Fine Line, when he made it, he was tripping on some stuff too. And I'm thinking to myself, for a lot of these artists, and you notice it, honestly, because I've met some people who make music and they're around them. A lot of them, man, they smoke a lot of weed. Yeah. And I feel that you kind of have to have a little edgy side to you because there's no way I could just wake up in the morning
and start writing music.
So I know earlier, right when we started, I think you mentioned a certain anime. Are you into anime at all?
I've watched some. Yeah, it was Yu-Gi-Oh! I mentioned.
Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes.
Yeah, so I watched Pokemon. Yeah. I watched Pokemon. I don't watch many now.
Yeah, right. But
yeah.
Do you think the creator of Pokemon had a crazy clean mind?
No.
Do you know he will have? You have to be baked out of your mind to come up with Pikachu. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's weird.
To wake up one day and you come up with all these animals that you want to call Pokemon, and no way.
A little chipmunk that can shoot lightning out of his tail.
Exactly.
Yeah. No,
there's no way. But I respect it.
Oh,
because that's how art was made.
Yeah, it's what it is. I mean, It used to be crazy to me as a kid that you'd see all these like people rapping about doing cocaine, and I remember saying to my mum, I was like, "Why don't the police just like go?" Because if I had some cocaine and I was walking around the street just saying, anyone want some? I'd be locked up.
Rappers, it's so funny because they, especially in court, they have a lot of their own lines used against them.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm thinking to myself, why don't you just
not rap about that?
Yeah, I don't get it. But a few more things I want to run by you. Thoughts on Harry Potter?
I think it's genuinely good. I'm a bit of a nerd. I actually was the quiz master at Elmer's last night for the trivia.
So you won it all?
No, I read it out. I was the presenter.
Nice.
So I did a round on Harry Potter because I thought I need to fulfill the stereotype.
Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant. I think it's really well written. I don't love some of J.K. Rowling's views. She's come out seemingly very anti-trans. I don't agree with that, but I don't think that detracts from the quality of the books, how they made me feel when I was a kid, the films as well. Are one of
Separate the art from the artist. Yeah.
And so the films are one of the few genuinely very, very good film versions of books. The films are really accurate to the books, really, last well, that you could watch them tomorrow and they'd still be good. Yeah. And I just find them fun. And I think, what kid doesn't want to secretly be a wizard? I think that those sort of things...
Which I don't want to use the word clan, but which group?
Which house?
Yes. Who do you align with?
See, I used to say Hufflepuff because everyone says Gryffindor, and you don't want to be that guy. But I genuinely think I kind of would be. It might be Ravenclaws are meant to be like smart and logical, so maybe them. But I think everyone has a little bit of a hero complex in them and thinks I'm probably going to be like, if I was in the Harry Potter books, I'd be Harry Potter.
I was saying this to somebody yesterday. If you're not living your life like the main character, that's a big problem.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your life. You're supposed to want to be the lead.
Yeah. So I'll say anything but Slytherin because I think I just don't fit in with that lot.
Yeah, my brother got the game back when it came out, which was, oh my god, it's incredible. But I haven't. So my PlayStation that you see right there, my PlayStation, I had one before that, and it broke back in October somehow. The motherboard just fried. Don't know how that happens. Don't ask me how. And I didn't have one for many months, and then eventually I got it back. But when I was out of commission, I guess you could say, my friends were playing it, and my brother did the whole quiz thing, and he got Hufflepuff. I did it as well. I also got Hufflepuff. Nice. Just a little tidbit. But great movies. I haven't read the books. Way too long. Don't know if I could ever just pick it up. Maybe one day. But
I'd suggest try. The first one's not that long. First one's like 200 pages, 250 pages. Okay. So it's not bad. And if you like it, you'll like the rest.
Okay.
But I remember loving them. I read them all within like a month.
I was a big Lightning Thief guy.
I loved
the Lightning Thief series.
Yeah. I didn't read all. I read the first 2 or 3 of them. I think I loved Twilight. Big into Twilight.
Really?
I am unashamed to admit that as well.
Isn't it Robert Pattinson? Yeah, he's also
So that Twilight was great. Hunger Games, brilliant. Divergent, brilliant.
Yep, all of them. Maze Runner.
Yep. What was it? Shadowhunters. Do you ever read them?
I don't think I haven't.
See, they've got a show and a film, but no, they're very good. But I loved those books. Yeah. The Shadowhunter series of books. They were great, man.
I forget, and you definitely know. Is it? No, I'm not even gonna say it. I forget her name. She was Bella in Twilight. The actress.
Kristen Stewart.
Kristen Stewart. She played as Princess Diana. Did you ever see that movie?
I didn't know.
It was called. Oh my god! I have it on my list. I literally saw it. I think it began with Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, no worries. I'm trying to think. There have been a good amount of films made about her.
Yes. Oh, Spencer,
yeah.
Great movie. Don't know much about...
Put it down on the list, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know much about the kingdom and the palace and all that, but oh my god. Just looking at it from an objective view, just someone playing a role, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Great job. It kind of just showed Princess Diana's anxiety and built up tension with her and the family in a way, like a possible scope as to what it could have been at the time. But yes, this was one of the big things I wanted to talk about with you. Yeah. So because I really don't know much about the palace, so they say, and how that all works, and obviously it's different. We have a president, you have a now king.
Yeah.
How does that whole thing work, and would you ever want to be knighted one day?
Okay, so I'd take being knighted, sure.
Sir Theo.
Sir Theo, I'd take that.
Yeah.
But essentially, the royals have no power. Pretty much, they have power on face value, so they have the ability to refuse to write something into law if they don't want to. But they're essentially figureheads now, and that's fine. That's all we need them to be. So they get, some would argue, too much money from taxpayers just to survive, and are really good for tourism. Pretty much, they when a prime minister gets voted in, a prime minister has to go to the king now and say, "I'd like your permission to form a government," and the king has to say yes. They don't legally have to, but if they said no, you would probably step towards dissolution, taking down the monarchy, because we're in the modern world. You can't be a dictatorship, certainly not in a first world country. So
Wow.
if they started toying with democracy and started fiddling and getting involved, that would be a gross abuse of the power that they're granted by the
Right.
taxpayer and by the citizens. So
How do you think they are just as people, though?
I think the Queen was, genuinely a brilliant person. You look at most, and that's not to say she didn't do bad stuff. Of the 200 member states of the United Nations, nearly 200, the UK have only not invaded around 22 of them. So we've invaded over 171, I think, of those countries. So
Okay.
we've not got a great history, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We're notorious pricks. But
Yeah.
in terms of the big social issues, the Queen was largely okay. Never had any history of racism. Went and fought in, or went and worked as a medic in the First World War and stuff like that before she became Queen. So it was genuinely good. Charles has some racism claims against him, some allegations of stuff like that. Andrew isn't in line for the throne, but obviously seems to be.
Wasn't one of the sons of the Queen involved with Epstein?
Yeah, that's Prince Andrew. So Prince
Yes.
Andrew was that's still sort of going on.
But
in the
what are
background.
your thoughts on that?
I mean, there's pictures of him with the girl
Yeah.
and stuff. I think he probably did it, and I think it's ridiculous that he's part of the royal family still in like an active role.
Compared to who's the son that was with what's her name, Meghan Markle?
Harry stepped away, so he decided to leave.
Yeah.
He's a son of Diana, and he saw the English press's treatment of Meghan being similar to the treatment of Diana, and I think it probably was. I think there was a lot of not necessarily just because of her skin color, but also the fact that she was from a different country. That's the first time in a while that's happened, and it was an American, and America's seen as this modern, like, I think she's Canadian actually, but it's all sort of seen as the same thing.
Right. But do you think they did the right thing by just stepping away?
I think Harry did an incredibly brave thing by stepping away. By saying, look, whatever this isn't worth the potential life of, the person I love and the potential happiness. So I'm happy to step away. William, who's his older brother, has kids. So Harry's not really going to be called upon to be king or anything. He's way down the line. Way down the list in terms of line for the throne now. I think he's done the right thing. Personally, the book, I get it. If it were me, I probably would have just had a conversation with my brother instead and had an open conversation about this is how this stuff made me feel. But he's made his bed with that. I think he's got a lie in it. I think he's done a very brave thing, and I have a lot of respect and admiration.
So what are your thoughts now on the current king?
Charles, I would have preferred him step aside for William, because everyone loved the Queen because she's been alive more than 95% of us. She was 97, I think. So she's been alive for ages. She's been reigning for most of everyone's lives. For 70 odd years. So, I think it would have made more sense for Charles as a 75-year-old or 74-year-old to say, okay, I'll let Will, who's 40-something, take over, because I think the royal family is walking a bit of a fine line. We're in a cost of living crisis in the UK, and they spent billions on the coronation. And it's fine, but it's taxpayer money. And we can deal with it if it's once every 50 years. But if Charles carks it in 10 years and we've got to do another one, the spectacle of it disappears, the excitement of it disappears, and the right to spend that much money goes out the window as well. So I would have preferred him step aside for William. I'm vaguely in favour of keeping the monarchy. I think it is good for tourism, and I think it is a big part of what makes us England. I don't want to get rid of it or anything like that, but I do think that they need to respect that no one believes that they're touched by God or anything like that, that they're above anyone else now. It's just...
I think I saw a video of a girl who said that the Queen never poops or something. That type of thing.
It's I mean, some people obviously believe it, but...
Yeah.
There are, they're less, great people now and great rulers now, and more this great reflection of where we once were as a nation, this great indicator of our history. So I'd like to keep them, but I think it's important that they start recognising that general society is more important than it perhaps has been to them in the past.
What are your thoughts on how Princess Diana was treated? Because that's obviously like when you think of the royal family, everyone thinks of Diana.
Yeah.
And how she was, I don't use the word outcast, but she was just different compared to the rest. Like, what are your thoughts on her treatment by the family, supposedly, and that whole thing?
I don't know too much about the ins and outs of her treatment within, the actual family. But in terms of, one thing I can speak about is the treatment by the press, which I think is shit. People forget that she was a very young person. I think she was 18, 19, and was getting married to a 30-something-year-old who had wanted to marry someone else and couldn't for whatever reason. So it's a tough position to be put in anyway as a young girl like that. And it isn't just an ordinary 30-something-year-old. There was a lot of pressure there. And the thing that I hate about journalism now, particularly in this country, more so than a lot of others, is it's entertainment. I get it, because you want people to watch and you need money coming in so that you can keep putting it out. But that isn't what news should be. News shouldn't necessarily be, but this is a cool thing, or this M&M's not sexy anymore. It's not important. Show the important stuff. We don't need updates on how Diana's doing and her kids, and we don't need to harass them like that. And I think I saw a great documentary, I can't remember the name of it, about journalists from the 80s reading back stuff that they wrote about homosexuals during the AIDS crisis. And a lot of them were sat there thinking, I can't believe that I wrote this stuff. And I don't know, I think journalists have a habit sometimes of forgetting why they went into it.
Yeah.
And have a fear of standing up to their editor for correct reasons. They don't want to lose their jobs, I understand it. But there are publications that I would never work for a variety of reasons. And there are things that no matter who my boss is, no matter what I've been told to do, I won't do something if I think it's immoral. And I think that journalists need to remember that.
I'm glad you said that, because it's a perfect segue to at what point did you realize you wanted to be a journalist, and what has led you to America?
So I wanted to be a sports journalist to start, and I still kind of do. That's still the way I'm leaning towards. But I was just in the car with my mum one day, and she said, "What do you want to study at uni? Because you need to choose something." I said, I don't really know. I kind of want to do something with like football, but I used to really want to be famous. I used to think I just want to be remembered. I want people to, in 100 years to look back and say, Theo Hewson-Best, what a guy.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where I just decided I wanted to be happy instead. So I didn't need to do something cool. I didn't need to do anything like that.
Kind of respect both paths, not going to lie. No.
I just wanted to do something I enjoyed. And I love football. I love talking about it. So I applied to a bunch of courses in sports journalism, and I've been doing that ever since. I'm 3 years in at the end of this year, and I'm loving it, man. I'm a bit of a nerd. I don't know too much, really. People can shout me a player from a Portuguese league, and I'll say, "Oh yeah, I know who you mean."
Yeah.
And people saying, "How?" Just because I'm a very much a nerd of
Right.
it. But I don't know, man. If I can go to work at 9 a.m. in the morning and come back at 6 or whatever, and you know, be with people I care about and love, then that's a perfect day in it. So long as I've enjoyed my day at work and enjoyed my day at home,
Wow.
that's what's making me want to do it. And football is such a uniting thing for people in England, particularly, that being a part of the way that information spreads, and being one of those people who can say, well, actually, you know, this is true and that isn't, and you know, be careful for this, and come on, everyone, get behind them. That's sort of what I'm happy doing.
Would you want to be a sports commentator?
I wouldn't mind being a commentator. I can talk when I'm not coughing. I can talk.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I like the in-depth stuff. I enjoy writing. It gives me a bit of a chance to show off. I like broadcast. I'm just open. I just want to do something I enjoy, and I know that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but it is just.
I got you.
I've got one more year before I graduate, so in that last couple of months before I graduate, I'll just apply to stuff that I like the sound of and see what happens.
Is that kind of how it was when you ended up coming here, or
no? So
because that's a pretty
yeah,
big leap.
It was a big change.
Yeah.
And here was pretty much entirely influenced by COVID, because my first year at uni was COVID. So
Wow.
even coming out of sixth form, I was still sort of an innocent kid, pretty much, because I'd lived so far away from all my friends for so long. So whereas other kids at 15, 16 were going off to parties and all this stuff, I couldn't go without begging my mum to drive me there and pick me up the next morning. So I just didn't get a lot of that experience. So when I went to uni, you know, I hadn't kissed someone, you know, for instance. That's 18. That's not, you know, not everyone is in that situation. I hadn't drunk much or anything like that, and I was going into a situation thinking this is going to be the year where I explore all these things and, you know, learn all these things about the world. And then I was locked in a room for 9 months, pretty much. And it was tough. You know, I'm okay with processing that stuff. I had 3 months over Christmas at home when we couldn't go back, and then 3 months again in Preston where I couldn't go back home, and it was weird and tough, and you know, I couldn't meet people and I couldn't have these experiences. So then second year started and applications opened to come here, and I thought, yeah, why not? Because I'd missed out on a year of uni. Yeah. We only studied for 3 years in the UK. And I'd missed out on my first year, I felt like.
Right.
So by coming here, I've added in an extra year. I've made it a 4-year course. And it meant that second year for me, in terms of learning who I am as an adult and learning who I am in these interactions with people and figuring out where I stand, you know, that was what second year was. That was my learning year. And now this year's been learning in a different way.
Was it an easy process and transition to come here? Or what was the process like, and how shocked were you when you came here and there was so many? Because I'm sure it was very different.
Yeah, I mean, the paperwork was, in terms of the process, the paperwork was the killer. Paperwork was a complete arsehole. Because of Brexit, we've got to fill out visa stuff that's more complex than people in the EU, and so it was all a nightmare. And I'm not a very admin-y guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw me get dropped off at the way down at the bottom of the road.
Yeah.
I'm not always on top of the organisational side of things. So that stuff was a nightmare. But it was harder in terms of in terms of leaving everyone, because by the time when I decided to come, I still wasn't that close with anyone because I'd been by myself for a year. And then by the time it came to leaving, I'd somehow managed to get myself in a relationship despite being determined that wouldn't happen before I came here.
Yeah.
You know, I had all these great friends who I was leaving, who now in a couple of weeks' time are going to graduate without me. So next year I'm going into a different year group, so new people again. And that was tough. But first couple of weeks here were weird. You know, it was an adaptation. You can't walk many places in this country. No. It's not very pedestrianised.
How did it feel when you came here, and then cars, you got the wheel on the left?
Yeah, that's weird, but only when the car's turning. Because when it's straight, you sort of don't notice because you're not thinking. But
right.
If we're turning left, then obviously we're hugging the curb to the left.
Yep.
So whereas for you guys, it's the opposite. You're swinging out. So a couple of times I was in the car and I saw someone go like wide, and I was thinking, shit.
Yeah.
But that was okay. And then I pretty much stayed on campus for the first couple of months because it had everything I needed, and I didn't have a car I can drive around, and I thought I'll just stay here, and it was fine. I met a bunch of great people. You know, did a lot of really good work. Better work in first semester than second semester, I think. But the transition was weird and it was tough. It took a long time to feel comfortable here, but now I do.
How do you feel in terms of the connections you've made and in terms of like leaving a legacy in a way in the States? Would you come back?
I'd visit. I wouldn't. I couldn't live here. I think there's too. It's
especially Connecticut of all places.
Yeah,
rough.
I mean, yeah. With all due respect, this is I think probably like a 4 out of 10 country is what I'd rate it.
Wow.
Overall.
Damn.
If I'm completely honest.
Damn. Tell me to leave.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to going, but I would definitely visit. It's and the tourist stuff is fun. I went to Vegas this year. I went to Boston and New York, and they're all brilliant places to visit and do all this great stuff. And America's great at experiences and great at spectacles, and those are still brilliant things to see. And I've met people here who I will be friends with for life, and even in that broadcast group, there's been talks of 5 and 10 year reunions and stuff, and people just rub off on each other, I think, and influence it. And I know I've become a different and better person from being here. It of course has influenced who I am, and I don't need people to attribute it to me, but I like to think that I've had an impact on the people that I've met here, and that I've changed their lives hopefully in a better way as well. Because I think that's all it is. I think all life is a patchwork quilt made up of people that you've met and people who've influenced you.
If and when you ever have kids and they want to know what Americans are like, or they kind of want to take the same path as you, just show them this.
Yeah.
This is my be like this. You want to see
honest experience.
You want to see a legit encounter with an American.
Ignore the swearing. That wasn't me.
Of course.
Someone added that in editing.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah, hi kids.
That's cool.
We'll see. Yeah.
You future yourself.
Everyone I've met here, the vast majority of people I've met here are lovely and super friendly, and more friendly than in the UK up front as well. Because in the UK, if you're walking down the street, you see someone you recognise, you'd be like, and then just keep walking, like a little nod, and then keep walking. Here, they'll stop for a full conversation, and it took me a while to get used to, because like sometimes I'm just walking somewhere and I just want to go.
Really? Because I feel that most of my encounters are how you described it here.
It might just be on Central Campus, and it might be the accent as well.
Yeah,
that might be taken.
probably.
People might be more keen to talk to me.
Yeah.
But, people here are super friendly and super willing to help. And
it's definitely the accent, because I do not get that treatment. I don't get that treatment. Wow.
Fair enough. It might be that, but
if I were to go to the UK, do you think they would be as fascinated with my accent as people are with you?
Okay, so there was, in my first year, there was a bunch of American kids, and they're annoying, man, to be honest. They're annoying. And you're not like them, because I feel bad. One of them was, he said, like, so what's the deal with girls over here, man? Because like in the US, like, if you just look at a girl and she looks back at you in a certain way, you know it's on. And I'm like, yeah, that's not how it works. So that's not how it works.
Who the hell? How did he get there? Who is that guy?
He was just studying. He was doing study abroad.
Oh my gosh.
Uni. So he was just saying, we were all sat outside just drinking, because it was the only place you could drink because of COVID.
Right.
And he said that, and yeah, I said, you can't do that. In the UK, you gotta have a conversation. You gotta build it up.
Well, that's how it is anywhere. That's how it should be. What is he talking
about? I don't know. But so we convinced him that like girls in the UK really love it if you just go up to them and start freestyle rapping, and he did. He just went up to a group of girls. he got his mate to get like just a musical backing track. He just went up to this group of girls and started rapping.
Did it work?
He came back and he said, so you guys were punking me, huh? So that's my only experience of Americans in the UK, really.
Oh yeah, that's not a good one at all.
Yeah, so
that's rough.
I don't think he'd be as bad as that. I think the accent, I think Americans are just naturally a bit louder maybe than people in the UK. So people will probably see, a bit loud, a bit willing to participate, but that's not a bad thing.
What do you think is the best way? Cause I'm kind of thinking about that now. What do you think is the best way to get a girl in the UK? Like, because obviously cultures are a little different.
Yeah.
Is it just talking? Is it?
I think it's just talking. I've only had the one girlfriend, and so over the minute, if she's still watching, anyway, and no, I'm, incredibly happy with her, and that all just came as a result of a slow burn, really. Like we started working together, started talking, spending time with each other, and I wasn't looking for a relationship. Probably for the first time in a while, I just said I don't want to get a relationship because I was a couple of months away from coming here, and I thought I don't want to do the long distance thing. And then perhaps because of that, my shields were down a bit more because I was like, I'm not getting in a relationship, so I can act more like myself.
Wow.
And then just fell head over heels, really.
So do you think love kind of builds up when you get to know someone rather than off the rip? Because so let me ask you: do you think it's better or healthier for a guy or girl to be head over heels for somebody just off physical looks, and then you get to know them and hopefully everything checks off, or do you think when you're both just talk to each other like normal humans, and then you get to know each other, and you're like, wow, I never really thought of you that way?
I think it's just I think different things work for different people. For me, I was and am very attracted to her. When I first met her, it was, that was obviously the first thing you see because it's the first thing you see, and it took me a while to talk to her because we didn't have shifts together and stuff like that. But I didn't fall in love with her based on the way she looks, as no one does really.
Yeah.
I think people fall in love based on everyone has a soul, everyone has an energy, and I think it's that energy that draws you to people, and I think different energies match different people, and her energy, that the stubbornness, the uniqueness of it just captured me fully the more time I spent with her. So that's what it is.
Another thing I want to ask you, I get your thoughts on KSI.
Okay.
And have you ever heard of or watched? Because I feel like you should have. If Americans have seen it, I feel that everyone in the UK has the chicken shop dates with that blonde girl.
Okay, yeah. KSI is very funny. He's very, very good at it. I watch his channel even now, and some of those videos are really, really good for just turning off. I think he's done a great job of maximizing his fame and stepping from thing to thing to thing. It's clear how hard he works at, the rap stuff. And the thing that impresses me is, look, he'll make mistakes. He'll apologize for them. He came out with a slur recently, on a video that it was cut out, but it was clear what it was, and the apology afterwards wasn't necessarily perfect, but he's one of those people who, if he makes a mistake, he'll make up for it.
Yeah.
And there are so many stories of him helping people and then not telling anyone. There were people who were fighting in illnesses, and he donated a bunch of money to them and didn't tell anyone.
Yeah,
did
it
all
seems
anonymously.
everyone posts when they help people these days.
Exactly. So he does all this, and then when someone mentions it, it was like, I told him not to tell anyone. I was hoping this wouldn't come out. And maybe it's plants, maybe, I'm falling hook, line and sinker. But
yeah,
the stuff like that, it makes him come across like a genuine guy. And, I'm glad he's had the success that he has, because it could go to someone much worse off, in terms of morals. And the chicken shop dates are funny. I saw the TikTok thing about, I get it, I understand, but she's taken it like Matty Healy from the 1975, Jack Harlow and stuff for chicken. It's just, in the UK, chicken shops are I'm trying to think. I don't think you've got an equivalent here. We have.
It looks good as hell.
It is good. It's good, but it's awful. So we have clubs in the UK. So in the city where I live, Preston, that's where my uni is. There's a club that's about a 20-minute walk away. And I would say on the walk back, you'll pass probably 8 or 9 different like chicken
Oh,
shop
so they're
takeaways.
everywhere.
They're everywhere.
So is chicken the thing in the UK?
It's chicken, but they do like pizza. They do like
But,
doner kebabs
if
and stuff like that.
If I were to ask you, put me onto your best possible food spot or food in general in the UK, what would you tell me?
In terms of like a food spot that's like, everywhere, Nando's. It'd be Nando's, which is which is a Portuguese, allegedly Portuguese chicken shop. Grilled chicken only, so there's no fried stuff. It's all flame grilled with peri peri seasoning, which is like hot, tiny bit sweet sometimes, and it's delightful because you eat it and it's amazing, but it's all pretty healthy for you as well because there's not that much fried stuff. They do chips, fries, but it's not that bad for you, and they don't have them anywhere in this country apart from Chicago, I think. And I was hoping they'd have made it over here by the end of the year.
Are you a fan of wings? Do you like eating wings?
I'm a wings guy, yeah.
Have you had J. Tim's yet here?
No.
When do you leave?
Next Tuesday.
You need to make it a priority
okay.
to somehow get to Plainville and get J. Timothy's wings.
Okay.
Dirt style.
All right.
They are ranked. I don't want to say what rank they are, but they are like consensus ranked super.
Yeah.
Never mind Connecticut, the country.
Okay.
You need to make it a priority before you leave.
Absolutely do that.
Because I somehow didn't know of this place until maybe 2 years ago. And every time I go there, I keep thinking to myself, "What the hell was I doing beforehand?"
Okay, I'll
try or get like a DoorDash to come to you or something.
Yeah, I'll
make it a priority. I'm glad that because if chicken's that big,
yeah. So no, they're everywhere. And all the shops that she goes to, they're all like cheap stuff. Like
they seem like nice low key spots too.
Yeah, they're really quiet, and stuff will be peeling off the walls, and they're not great quality food, and you know that. Like they get big bags of like pre-fried chicken that they've just got. It's not good quality.
Yeah, but that's not
on the way
point.
back from a night out when you're drunk and you've been swigging on like vodka diet cokes all night or whatever. And you stumble in and all you want is like some cheesy chips or like some bad fried chicken or some greasy meat.
It's just a
or
vibe.
something. It just works. Yeah. So the chicken shop thing isn't because of the race of the people she's interviewing.
Yeah.
It's there was a TikTok about that where KSI was interviewed about it, I think. And they said, "Isn't it weird?" So those chicken shops are real.
Right.
They're real exclusive to the UK. Like you won't find them anywhere else. And if you ever go clubbing in the UK, I can guarantee you that the walk back to the hotel, you will walk past a bare minimum of 5 or 6 of them.
Well, now I could say that I have connections in the UK. So if at some point,
I'll be able to show you.
Push comes to shove, I'll get Chris. We'll
100%
go to the UK.
Chris has promised he'll visit. So
I would love to visit too, because who knows? Who knows who you'll see walking in the UK?
Exactly.
I want to make sure I had nothing else left. Do you think you're ready to answer the 3 things?
I'm ready to answer whatever you want me.
And before I ask them, do you feel that you've accomplished all the best things that you could have in your time here? Do you think you've used it efficiently? Like, I mean, if you're being honest.
Yeah, I in terms of who I've met and the things I've done, sure. I think I would have liked to travel a bit more, but money was a restriction.
Of course.
To all that stuff. So, there were things that I wanted to get up to DC. I haven't managed to. So, there's definite things where my organisation has fallen down a little bit. But, in terms of my overall happiness at having been here, as much as it's been tainted by not seeing family much, not seeing my girlfriend much, not seeing my dog, I'm delighted that I came here, and I'm over the moon to have met so many people who I will...
Right.
If not remain in contact with, at the very least, remember for the rest of my life.
3 things. Let's start with favorite movie and or TV show, or one that you could, or both, or that you'd have to recommend to the people.
Okay. This is a tough one. I've watched a lot of stuff. I'm big into films and stuff. I don't think you can go very wrong with some of the good Tarantinos. I'm a big, Inglourious Basterds is brilliant. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a phenomenal film. And I really like the way that he tries to rewrite history in those.
Yep.
I've also got to give a quick shout out to Game of Thrones, which gets disrespect because of the last season. I understand it. Last season was tough.
I need to see it.
But the rest of the show is brilliant.
I've seen everything but Game of Thrones, it seems like.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think I'm gonna have to say Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or The Green Mile. Those are my two.
Green Mile had me sobbing like a child when I first saw it.
Like a little baby, man.
Such a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Favorite album or one that you'd have to recommend, or just artist/band that you have to put on to the people?
Okay, I'm going to say an album called Singing for Strangers by Hudson Taylor, who are a little folk, sort of Irishy band that I watched. I used to go to gigs with my mum because I was the only one who'd agreed to do stuff with her. And they were the support act to someone, and they had a song called Chasing Rubies that I loved as a 12-year-old. And the album's just a real comfort one to me. You know, it's not even my type of music now.
Right.
You know, there are better albums that I can recommend. Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan is one that you have to listen to if you've not. That's an absolute necessity. But in terms of one that means the most to me, and one that, you know, regardless of, you know, the overall quality, regardless of whether it's my kind of music now, that's just a real comfort to me, Singing for Strangers.
Last but not least, and I feel like we could go on for hours and hours and hours, which we'll figure something out some way.
We can do a Zoom or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Last but not least, some words of advice or wisdom, whether it's to your family, friends, people back across the pond, your future self, whoever it is, whatever it is, just some words to put out there in the universe that will last forever.
Okay. The words that I live by are make the next right decision. If you're sat somewhere, you know, a couple of years ago, someone in my brother's year younger, killed himself. And, you know, I didn't know him very well, but I think I spoke to him 3 or 4 times. But it's one of them where, even then, I was sat there thinking, what if I just randomly messaged him that day or something like that? And so it's a slight deviation from live every day like it's your last. It's just make the next nice, right decision. If someone's struggling or something like that, do what you can to help. Don't sacrifice yourself for it. Don't throw yourself, you know, miles out of your way. But just be kind, open yourself up, and be as honest as you can be, because I think the easiest way to help people is by being open about who you are, and maybe that might just give them a chance at figuring out who they are.
That was beautiful. That kind of sounded like Paddy Pimblett when he made his speech about mental health in the UFC. That was great.
I appreciate it.
But unfortunately, it is that time. We have to get you out of here. Everyone has a story and it's still being written. I appreciate all of you for hopefully still listening and watching. If you are, please make sure you like and subscribe. I love you all. Praying for you all. My heart is with you all. Ciao for now. Cheers.